So yesterday was such an incredible day for news, discussion, thought experiments, debate, and it's been really fun to be able to have such great conversations with each and every one of you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed some of yesterday's video or what we posted over on X or Twitter, but thank you guys so much for coming back and checking out today's video. Now, as expected, after a while, we finally hit that sub-loss day where we actually lost subscribers here at the channel, and my personal view about it is I want you to have something good in your feed, and if this channel doesn't provide it, I hope that you go find somebody who will. Like, you don't owe me anything, and that's, I think, a beautiful thing, but I just wanted to call that out because we also have 80% of you guys who watch the content who have yet to subscribe. So if you feel like pushing that number up higher as we get closer and closer to 75,000, that'd be great, but no worries and no pressure either way. Let's kick this off with Phil Spencer because he talked about how disappointing it's been seeing this information leak from the FTC. This was not a part of their plan, and it gives us so much insight, but he also alludes that things might have changed. Here's what he's got to say. We've seen conversation around old emails and documents, and it's hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much of it has changed and there is so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share real plans when we are ready. And one of the things that news stories that broke yesterday that we didn't talk about because everything else was going on is Starfield has officially passed 10 million players. So congrats to them. But Phil Spencer put out a memo to his team, and we want to dive into that. Also coming up in this video, we're going to talk about him, alluding that they might exit the gaming business and the impact that that would have overall. But let's go ahead and dive into his memo to his team. He says, team, today several documents submitted to the court proceedings related to our purposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard were unintentionally disclosed. I know that this is disappointing, even if many of the documents are well over a year old and our plans have evolved. I also know that we take this confidentiality of our plans to our partners in information very seriously. This leak obviously is not us living up to that expectation. We will learn from this and what happened and do better going forward. We will put incredible amounts of passion and energy into our work, and that is never how we want the hard work to be shared with the community. That said, there is so much more to be excited about, and when we're ready, we'll share the real plans with our players. In closing, I appreciate all of the work that you guys pour into Team Xbox to surprise and delight our players. In the days ahead, let's stay focused on what we can control, continuing the amazing success for Starfield and the upcoming launch of the incredible and accessible Forza Motorsport, and continuing to build games and services and devices that millions of players can enjoy. And so I think obviously a lot of that was, they sent this out to The Verge as well. So this is essentially his public PR statement, his statement to the team. And when it comes down to it, one of the things we give the developers in any of these games is, that was a funny stutter, is our surprise and delight, right? That's the way we can say thank you for a lot of the work that they put in. Personally speaking, I'm going to be very curious to see what has changed with their plans from what was leaked. This will be a really fun thought experiment and an exercise that we'll explore in future videos once that information comes to light. Now, I'm going to bring up Reforged because he brings up an interesting point, one that I missed, and we talked about it over on Twitter, and he pointed out something, especially when it comes to a specific word, and you guys can weigh in on whether you think this means what Reforged means or if you had the initial impression that I had. But he says, folks seem to be missing a key point from this Xbox leak. This is not a casual discussion about the potential Nintendo merger. Phil Spencer admits that he, both the board of directors, are open to hostile action if the opportunity arises. Read the last sentence carefully. And that sentence being, but our board of directors has seen the full write-up on Nintendo and Valve, and they are fully supportive on either if opportunity arises, as am I. And so what's this relating to? Now, I read this as Nintendo and Valve and talking about if either opportunity arises. But in this case, what Reforged pointed out, and honestly, like when it comes down to it, you can clearly hear my English isn't the best. It wasn't my degree of study. He says this but is coming off of this hostile action, which essentially would not be a good move in his view, but they're playing the long game and more. And this actually brings up is this even possible? I called my dad to talk about it, and if we bring up Nintendo stock here, you can see right now they're trading at $10.84, up 1.5% in the last year. Nintendo hasn't been a growth stock for investing. Just as a heads up, if you actually go look at their lifetime, the 5 years, like they're up a little bit, but overall they just tend to fluctuate. And this is in and of itself, like this will be something interesting to see what their long-term plans are, because when you look at them in relation to Japan, it's pretty much on par. Japan's stock market hasn't been doing much for investing, and so that's just something I think it's an interesting call out. But monetarily, asked him how much would it cost to buy out all of Nintendo, assuming that there was no hostile negotiation, and based off their market cap, money, etc., my dad estimates around $51 billion. If it was a hostile negotiation, if it was a hostile takeover, you could see that jump up to an additional 25 to 30 billion. So it would be, in a hostile way, the size of an Activision Blizzard plus, I guess a Bethesda. So, however, it would be less than an Activision Blizzard, which is weird to me. Like, if we're going to just talk about this as somebody who's a Nintendo fan, as somebody who loves Nintendo games, but does not like the way they deliver them, the way that they, lock them away. And you can agree and disagree. Like, honestly, it's all fair, but I'm going to continue to advocate for more games in more places. Gamer first is my point of view. I'm not a platform guy. So, and that message has been consistent. It's been so funny seeing so many people on Twitter going like, oh, you seem to change your tune. Like, this is what I've been preaching for over 10 years, and I'm going to keep hammering that. Gamers should be everywhere. And the good case in point for this is just the handheld market. We're seeing it explode on the backs of cloud and more games coming to PC. It opens up the ability for people to invest, make money, and thus we can see some interesting competition not coming from just these general corporations that are controlling the whole product. Anyway, I talked about that over on Twitter. You can go follow me over there if you like. Link is in the description. But anyway, it's interesting to see in terms of the cost. Now, here's where things take an interesting turn. And honestly, if they did decide to ever back out, this would be, I think, a total loss for gaming as a whole. And this would make me frustrated with whatever they decide to do. So this does, this story here does make me question and put me back on my heels a little bit, because Hunter's here tweeting out, Phil Spencer says that Xbox would leave the gaming business if Game Pass doesn't grow enough by 2027. I can fairly safely say that if we do not make more progress on this off the console, we would exit the gaming business. Now, when I go and read the full article, the context behind this is him talking about how big PC gaming is and how much potential there is, and they're continuing to invest in that. I think them supporting GeForce Now is a huge win, is a huge boon to continue to make and add value to that service that they are offering on the PC. I think Activision Blizzard helps accelerate this with Battle.net. A lot of people, obviously looking at the Valve as the Steam option. I think Battle.net is a great competitor to Steam, and Activision Blizzard only really uses it for their internal games as opposed to anything else. And I think you could see them expand that, as long as also Xbox continues to bring their games to Steam. Put your games in places. That's going to be the mantra that I go with. But it would be interesting to see. I think it would be a sad day to see Microsoft exit. Now, what would probably happen in that case is that they would sell off that division and another company would take over. Like, the Xbox brand wouldn't just disappear. But this would be something I would think that you would be looking at beyond 2027 at this point, because they've already announced a new, not announced, but they leaked the new console and so much more. Now, Tazak says, leak explicitly states handheld is actually not going to be made by Microsoft, and some interesting things about this. Again, things we might have missed. Current gaps in fiscal year 23 to reach the 2030 goals. Not currently funded and resourced is like audio portfolio expansion, repairability, sustainability, progress, new cloud server blades, accessibility, PC accessories, console customizations. What's interesting to me, the luxury controller and the elite controller. Like, what's a luxury controller? Is that more than an elite? Is the elite higher in this case? Not in scope for first party, handheld, mobile controller, media remote, and earbuds. And that kind of makes sense. And to wrap up this video is just a kind of a final thought here. Jez is tweeting this out. Weird takes that he's seen and he feels needs debunked over at Xbox. Now, film using on Nintendo was aspirational corpo speak, gently explaining why it was a bad idea without alienating the commenter. Now, I saw a lot of people say like, oh, he's just in it for the career. Yeah, like that's a natural thing for somebody to say. Like if you're sitting here and going like, if Phil Spencer were to get Nintendo and on board, and honestly, like I don't really think it needs to be acquisition. There's a huge potential for partnership here when we think about Nintendo Online and Nintendo's just network infrastructure. Yeah, just Xbox, give them some servers, man. Help them out. Like, let's get them leveled up as well. And I think that's where what you're going to constantly hear me advocate for is more horse trading as opposed to just general acquisition. However, I do think that the video game industry could use a massive shakeup. And a lot of people don't agree with me, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm going to keep advocating for it because I think a lot of people are just afraid to change. Like, I think when you boil it down to it, it's the natural reaction to change. People don't like it. Eventually, it's like, okay, here are the benefits, here are the disadvantages. It's not to mean that this would be a perfect situation and then everything would become sunshine and rainbows. No, in fact, I think I would be more critical of what Xbox does as if they continue to go down that route. Anyway, also, calling Baldur's Gate 3 second run refers to the fact that it's not launching on Xbox first. I will be entertaining a second run when it hits Xbox. Some people, even journos, took this to mean second rate for some reason. Now, like others, Xbox is launching a discless Xbox Series X. No evidence yet that they plan to stop supporting Blu-ray, external generic USB. I saw Mudahar, I saw several people also talking about this and this, like the disc crew. And it's interesting to see because they used to be the dominant. Now they're the niche when it comes to gaming. I don't buy discs. I don't want a disc. Don't give me a disc. I have a discless PS5, and if they gave me a discless version of the Xbox Series X, that's what I would get as well. And I think a lot of it ends up coming down to, and weirdly enough, those who have kids and those who don't. I think more and more of us who have children hate discs and cartridges, and they're just a waste of money because they're going to get destroyed. And that's really kind of the biggest difference between the two. And so anyway, that's just kind of my thought. Not necessarily is that going to be a blanketed rule that applies to everybody, but generally speaking, when I see a lot of people talk about physical versus digital, I'm all digital, so that way I don't end up losing out on, my games, because they get destroyed around here, and that's just the nature of it. As soon as my kids grow up, maybe then I'll have a different take on it. There's no mention of Halo in the leaks because that Xbox Game Studios leaked. It was all on the Bethesda side. Does not mean Halo is doomed, and no real confirmation on Xbox working on an Xbox handheld. We just talked about that a little bit ago. This is where I think Nintendo would be great. Like, you see all the new handhelds out there. I don't need Microsoft making a branded Xbox handheld. Just support handhelds, and xCloud is a great option. Bring your games to PC. Like, that is, I think, the best option. And so that's going to be kind of what it is. And that's where we're going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out for it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you feel like it earns it, let's get 50 likes on this video as a like challenge, as this is a great way of helping and support the content here in the algorithm. If you're sticking around for the content, thank you so much. If you want to come back and check me out every now and then, I try to post a positive, awesome video at least once a day. And if I'm successful, you can let me know. And if I'm not, you can let me know too. So all opinions are welcome here about the content. But anyway, thank you guys so much. God loves you. God loves you. Like, I love you. God loves you more. That's what I want to say. I'm praying for you guys, and hopefully you guys wish you all the absolute very best. Hopefully I will see you in the next video. But until then, take care.